let's go ahead and get started. Appreciate everybody being here. Uh, my name is Glenn Setchfield, and I'm thrilled to welcome you to this really important session on sequence of returns risk. At DMI, we're not just here to offer products or services. We're here to be your partner in growth. So what makes DMI unique? At DMI, we're redefining what it means to be an IMO or an independent marketing organization. Our mission is to simplify complexity and empower you, the financial professional, with the tools, expertise, and support you need to succeed in a competitive market. We combine personalized service, unmatched in-house marketing expertise, and industry-leading speed to ensure your challenges are met with solutions that work. Whether it's case design, marketing strategies, or operational support, we're here to help you grow your business and better serve your clients. If you've ever wondered why so many of your peers choose DMI, it's because we go beyond being a service provider. We're a partner who listens, acts, and delivers. So now why are we here today? Today's topic is a sequence of returns risk, and it's a game changer for financial planning conversations. It's not just about numbers. It's about giving your clients peace of mind. As financial markets become increasingly volatile, understanding how the timing of returns can impact retirement income is critical for your client's financial security and for setting yourself apart as a trusted advisor. In this webinar, we'll discuss how to help your clients de-risk their portfolios effectively. Number two, showcase solutions like annuities and other strategies that provide guaranteed income. And three, turn complex risks into opportunities to strengthen your client relationships and build long-term trust. So as we dive in, I encourage you to think about how this topic can help elevate your conversations, differentiate your practice, and most importantly, bring greater value to your clients. At DMI, we believe that your growth is our success. So let's dive in together and explore how understanding sequence of returns risk can be another tool in your arsenal to make a meaningful difference for your clients in your business. Maureen Walker is going to be sharing some survey questions as we go, just to make this a little more fun and engaging. But she'll also help with Q&A at the end. We may stop along the way to pick up a few questions here and there as well. But today we were very lucky to have Erick Lindewall, one of our annuity VPs, with us. With over 30 years experience, Erick's knowledge runs deep when it comes to helping advisors navigate complex challenges, identify opportunities, and ultimately grow their business. So couldn't have a better guy here to talk about sequence of returns risk with us today. Really appreciate you being here, Erick. I'm going to hand it off to you, good sir.
Great. Thanks, Glenn. And good morning or afternoon to everybody. I certainly do appreciate you taking the time to join us today as we talk once again about one of the most important topics that come up when we're trying to help our clients plan for retirement. Just a little bit about myself. As Glenn mentioned, I've been in the industry over 30 years and wholesaling annuities for over 25 years. And this topic, sequence of returns risk, is something that I'm very passionate about. And as we pull up the presentation here, I just want to suggest to you all that, we all may have an understanding of what sequence of returns risk is and how it can dramatically impact one's success in retirement. But oftentimes it's a concept or a topic that's very difficult to articulate to our clients. And I think that's vitally important that we can help our clients understand that this risk exists and the potentially devastating impacts it could have on their retirement, because in my opinion, no one ever solved a problem that they didn't know existed. So we're going to talk about what the risk is and how dramatic the impact could be, and try to help you have better conversations with your clients that will raise their awareness of what the potential risk will be and allow you to have more productive conversations and planning conversations to help them mitigate that risk. So as we dive in here, before we get right into the meat of the matter, see if I can get my presentation to advance, which it doesn't. There we go. Some basics. What is a bear market? Because negative sequence of return risk happens when the markets don't do too well. So certainly we can't predict how the markets are going to do, but what we do know is that those of us that have been in the industry for a while, there's going to be bear markets. And historically, every 3.5 years, we get a bear market that lasts just a touch over a year. Sometimes those bear markets are long overdue and we have a long bull period. And so, if you look over the last 20 years, I think there's been a couple of bear markets, but certainly, the averages do work out over time. There's a real good chance that clients are going to experience probably, well, certainly at least once, but probably more than one bear market during their retirement lifetime. And, it takes about 3.2 years to recover from a bear market. So those are just some factoids that give us a backdrop to dive into what we're going to discuss today. So simply put, what is sequence of return risk? Sequence of return risk, oh, I'm sorry, that did not, trying to go back here, folks. There we go. Okay. Sequence of return risk is as you approach retirement, having the market not be performing. And so, when we transition into retirement, we go from accumulation mode to distribution mode. And oftentimes during accumulation mode, we really don't pay attention to when the good years and the bad years happen. Quite frankly, if we're patient, the sequence in which we receive our returns doesn't really matter. So what happens is we get to retirement and we don't make that fundamental shift in our brain that the sequence of returns is important, and that becomes potentially a fatal mistake for our retirement. And so I'm a believer that most people are visual learners. So instead of telling you what sequence of return risk is, let's walk through it. So I mentioned accumulation, or the accumulation period of retirement. And so sequence of return risk is not very important during accumulation. In fact, what this chart here is showing is two particular portfolios, or you could call them clients, that start with $100,000 and let that money accumulate and grow over about a 25-year period. Now, what I will tell you is both of these portfolios averaged 8% per year. Now, you'll notice portfolio A experienced poor returns in the beginning and portfolio B experienced good returns in the beginning. And the returns they received year in and year out were very different, but they both averaged 8%. And you'll notice that they both arrived at the same exact place, at the same exact time, with the same exact amount of money. So as you can see, during accumulation, it really doesn't matter when your good years and your bad years happen. Rather, it just matters what your average return is over the long haul, right? So these two folks started with $100,000, and 25 years later, they've got $691,000 and change. And that's the finish line. So now they get towards retirement. Now, each of these folks learned a very potentially valuable lesson during accumulation that could potentially be a very detrimental lesson in distribution. And what they learned was, if they were patient and they didn't care when the good years and the bad years happened, that everything would work out okay. Patience. So they transition into retirement, and we're going to see how that patience might not work out for them. So as we transition into retirement, the sequence of return is vitally important. In fact, those returns in portfolio A and portfolio B, just by being reversed in order, could dramatically impact the retirement. So let's take a look at these two clients now starting at age 65. Now, they're starting with that same $691,000, that they had accumulated during their accumulation phase. And just they're going to take out about 5% per year adjusted for inflation, a typical systematic withdrawal plan. Now, editorial note, we all know now that the safe withdrawal rate based on Monte Carlo simulations is about 4%, but people always take 5, right? So They're taking out their 5% withdrawal, and it's adjusted for inflation. And what I want to look at here is showing you the sequence of return risk in its clearest detail. So let's take a look at portfolio A. They started their withdrawals at 34,576, and in the first 3 years of retirement, they were experiencing a bear market. You will notice if they continue to take those withdrawals as scheduled, and quite frankly, probably as needed, their retirement portfolio, regardless of how it performs thereafter, is going to get to zero. And in fact, in this particular situation, it happens by age 80, 81. So really what this person is going to have to do is make some very, very difficult choices in the beginning part of his or her retirement. In fact, by age 68, their balance is down to $337,000. So what started as a 5% systematic withdrawal really now is nearly a 10% systematic withdrawal. They're going to have to make some very difficult choices reflective of their new balance reality. Choice number one, hurry up and die. That's not a great choice, right? Choice number two is to dramatically reduce their withdrawal from their retirement assets reflective of their new balance. And quite frankly, that's the choice they have to make. So instead of withdrawing, say, $36,000, they may only be able to withdraw $15,000 or $16,000 to make their money last their lifetime. So for many folks, as they get into retirement, that $36,000 withdrawal from their retirement assets, when combined with Social Security and any other sources of retirement income they might have, that might be the number that they have to connect all the dots in retirement. So if these folks are forced to reduce their withdrawal from 36 down to $15,000 or $20,000, how might they make up that remaining $10,000 or $15,000 or $20,000 that they need to make ends meet? And the answer, as I'm sure you've all guessed, is they may have to go back to work part-time, right? So some people don't mind doing that in retirement, but some don't want to. So the key is to, really try to help these people always be making that choice based on their wants and not their needs. The exact same scenario on the right with portfolio B, this client is lucky enough to retire in the midst, not of a down market, but of an up market. So you will notice they start to take their withdrawals out. And because they started in an up market, their portfolio not only is able to keep up with their withdrawals, but really grow quite dramatically throughout their retirement lifetime. In fact, by age 90, or age 89, their portfolio, despite giving them income for all of those years, is worth quite a bit more than what they started with, $2.8 million. Now, some of you may have already noticed, but in case you haven't, these are two very different outcomes for people that started with the same amount of money and the same withdrawal. So what's different about these two outcomes? It might be easy to say that, well, portfolio B had way better returns. Nope. Both of these portfolios average long-term 8% per year. The only difference, and you've probably picked up on it by now, is we simply inverted the order of returns on these two portfolios, right? So the portfolio B was lucky enough to retire in the midst of an up market, and portfolio A was unlucky enough to retire in the midst of a down market. So when you think about how we plan for retirement, during our accumulation years, we can do everything right. We can aggressively save. We can diversify our portfolios. We can remain patient, and everything will work out okay, usually. But the single most important and impactful factor of whether our retirement income distribution plan will succeed or fail is luck. Again, whether we're lucky enough to retire in an up market or unlucky enough to retire in a down market. So the good news is this is a story, or these two portfolios, or this particular slide is part of a piece that DMI has created that you can actually use with clients to walk them through sequence of return risk so they can at least understand it. Now, are we trying to scare people? Well, No, we don't want to scare them. But again, we'd like them to understand really the impact that negative sequence of return risk can have on the success of their retirement income plan. And it's really important that they understand that risk, because once they understand that risk, they'll be more apt to want to listen, or more apt to listen to potential solutions that can help mitigate that risk. So how do we do that? How do we shield our retirement against the consequences of a bear market? Obviously, we talk all day about creating different buckets or income levers that you can pull in retirement. Obviously, taking risk off the table, deleveraging and de-risking as we get close to and into retirement. The third option is one I don't hope to do in my retirement: lower expenses during the initial years of retirement. In fact, the early years of retirement are often referred to as the go-go years, right? Where expenses might actually go up. And that actually is because now we finally got the time to do all the things we wanted to do while we were working, and we've still got our health to be able to do them, right? So I don't know how reasonable that is. Consider a second career. Not my goal. Some people, it might be their goal, certainly not mine. Delaying retirement, that's becoming a reality for folks as they look forward towards retirement. But most importantly, work with a financial professional and that can help them understand what the risks are, what the potential solutions are, and how to navigate the myriad of solutions and products and strategies that are available in the marketplace. At the end of the day, what we want folks to do is transition from accumulation into retirement with a clear focus on what their retirement income plan looks like, and most importantly, peace of mind and comfort in retirement, that no matter what the market's doing, no matter what the political climate is, no matter what the economy is doing, no matter where interest rates are, that their retirement, at least their minimum level of retirement income to maintain their lifestyle, is fully protected and guaranteed forever. Right. So there's a lot of ways to do that, and it's unique for every client situation. Obviously, annuities with guaranteed lifetime income riders play a big part in that. I love to use an analogy because these systematic withdrawal plans that we looked at, excuse me, on the prior slides are just that. It's a bucket of money that's invested in every year. On January 1st, for example, you go there and you take a certain amount out. And the analogy I love to use is that of a bank. I'm going to really simplify this as best I can. And this is a story that you could use with your clients to help them understand the value of guaranteed lifetime solutions. Let's say I had, $100,000, and every year on January 1st, I was going to go to the bank and withdraw $10,000 to supplement my income. And each year on January 1st, I went and I did that, and I took that check out. And let's assume it's from a savings account. So I think you'd all agree that at some point here in about 10 or 11 years, I'm going to get to the bank on January 1st and ask for my $10,000. And they're going to say to me, Eric, I'm sorry, but there's no more money left in the account. We can't give you your check. And I would get that same answer at 29 of the 30 banks in my town. But if there was just one bank that on that January 1st, when my account value was zero, they'd say, you know what, Eric, here's your check for $10,000. And every January 1st thereafter, they would continue to give me that check. Would you ever do business with any of the other banks? Certainly you wouldn't. That's the level of protection and peace of mind and comfort that you can provide to your clients as they transition into retirement by using guaranteed lifetime income solutions. So the beginning of that conversation is understanding sequence of return risk, because that's what we're protecting against. The biggest fear that people have as they transition, or one of the biggest fears that they have when they transition into distribution, into retirement, is will their retirement assets last a lifetime, right? Or will they have enough income to last a lifetime? So I started to talk a little bit about guaranteed lifetime income solutions. Are fixed annuities a good fit? Yeah, for a lot of different reasons. Fixed or fixed indexed annuities can be one of the tools, not the only tool, but one of the tools that you use to help bring a great degree of stability and peace of mind and comfort to one's retirement. Obviously, there are other solutions, such as life insurance, that can also play a part in creating a robust, well-rounded, diversified retirement and retirement income plan for your clients. That in many cases, when we implement life insurance into part of the plan, can also help create a tremendous legacy for the next generation. Now, life insurance isn't my area of expertise. In fact, I'm, as Glenn mentioned, one of the annuity VPs here at DMI. But here's the great news. DMI has experts in the life insurance space as well that can walk you through all of the different solutions that might make sense on a case-by-case basis. So that is at least the beginning of our webinar today, but certainly not the end. But I do want to wrap by saying this. Sequence of return risk is, in my opinion, the single most important topic that we can discuss with our clients today, our pre-retiree and early stage retired clients. When you look at the markets and how high they are right now, history tells us that it's just a matter of time before we, have a downdraft in the market. And again, if the downdraft is, a year or 2 or 3 years long, and our clients are taking a systematic withdrawal plan from the money they spent their whole life saving, it's going to be a dramatically different retirement than they envisioned. But like I mentioned, nobody on earth, at least in my opinion, solves a problem they don't know exists. So we need to be able to describe what the risk is. And I think you'll agree that the two small grids that we showed, Portfolio A versus Portfolio B, do a great job of describing that difference between sequence of returns in accumulation and sequence of returns in distribution. And it's a big difference, right? So we would welcome the opportunity on a one-on-one basis to work with you, help you craft your version of the sequence of return story, and help you articulate to your clients how important it is to at least consider the impact of negative sequence of return risk, and then help you position, when appropriate, solutions that'll make for a better retirement for your clients. So I want to just stop for a moment, catch my breath, and check in with Maureen. Maureen, do we have any questions or comments that have popped up before I turn it back to you to go over some really cool marketing stuff?
We do. Just a couple of things. A lot of them you actually answered as people were typing in the questions. So you're very intuitive, Eric. So thank you for that.
Lucky me.
One question that did pop up so far that hasn't been discussed is, from your perspective, is there a recommendation as far as like the company or the one company, or is there a fantastic product out there that you could recommend to everyone as something to, use, look at, that sort of thing?
Yeah, what's the go-to one, right?
Yeah.
So that's a great question. And actually, I'm glad it came up. So a little background on myself first. I'm going to give you a long answer to that question, Maureen. I spent over 20 years working at the carrier level as an annuity wholesaler prior to joining DMI. And for those of you that know, when you wholesale directly for a carrier, you've got that carrier's products. And so you're always positioning, why my company wins. At DMI, we're a little bit different. We are truly product agnostic. I like to say, quite frankly, I don't care who wins. I just want to give you best in class on a case-by-case basis. And the key to that is case by case. When using guaranteed lifetime income solutions, I get that question all the time. Who's the best? And my answer is, I can't tell you who's the best until I know a little bit more about your client, the age of the client, whether it's single or joint life, how long the deferral period will be, and whether they want level or increasing income, market-based increased income solutions. All of that gets baked into the cake before we figure out the winners and the losers. Now, there's some commonalities, certain carrier names that typically come up, the Nationwides, the Athenes, the Corbridges of the world, but it truly is determined on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. I actually have two questions coming up that I'm going to piggyback together because they're very similar in nature. So get ready. Here I come. 4% rule. Everyone these days is talking about the 4% rule. So we have a question saying, specifically, what is the 4% rule? Does it work most of the time? How is it applicable to sequence of returns? And you used 5% in the scenario that we talked about in the slides. What if it was 4% or 3.8%?
Yep. Okay. So yeah, there's like 4 questions there, but
No, sorry.
yeah, the 4% rule used to be called the 5% rule. Gosh, I can remember 30 years ago talking about a basket of mutual funds taking out 8 or 9%, and it ought to be okay, right? The rule is simply based on Monte Carlo simulations of tens of thousands of different simulated market outcomes, and based on one's life expectancy, what level of systematic withdrawal they could take with a reasonable chance that that pile of money would last a lifetime, right? And so the rule, if you will, has changed over time because market dynamics and market averages have shifted over time, right? So I think most, we refer to it as the 4% rule. It's really kind of the 3.8% rule right now. The second question is, what would happen if we ran that same sequence of return graph with a 4% withdrawal? Well, pretty simple. The Portfolio B would look even better, right? Because that was the one that retired in the beginning years. Portfolio A would still run out of money, but a little bit later. And in fact, whomever answered that question, if you reach out to me, that is a dynamic tool. That is a marketing piece that our Maureen and her team at DMI and marketing has put together. And I don't think it would be that hard for us to recalc those numbers, get it compliance approved, and get that to you. So QR code, top of my screen, grab my contact info and reach out, and I'll see if I can make that happen for you.
That's a great idea, Eric. We do have someone suggesting that because of low interest rates, it's 3.3 now. So
bingo.
Again, reach out to Eric. His QR code is right there on the screen. And, if there's a specific number or something more timely that you would like to see, we can definitely work that in.
Yeah, I want to give, and this is going to be a little bit of a lead into a seminar that we're doing, or webinar we're doing in a couple of weeks, but let's talk about that. So, and thank you for whoever just popped in at 3.3%. Yeah, that's been the challenge, right? For a couple of different reasons. Let's take sequence of return risk and put it on the shelf for a moment. If we're adhering to the safe withdrawal rule, what does that mean for someone with, I'm just going to use a nice round number, $1 million portfolio, right? That means, 8 years ago, they could reasonably expect to take 50 grand a year. Now they can only take 33 grand a year safely, right? What if they could create that same 33 grand a year, but only use 450,000 of their $1 million? And what if that 33 grand a year, instead of will probably last your whole lifetime, you could say to them, will absolutely contractually guaranteed last your whole lifetime, right? What if you could create the same level of income utilizing 50% or less of the assets? That's the other key with these safe withdrawal rates is it takes so much of one's portfolio to reasonably support a withdrawal based on a safe withdrawal rule that there's got to be a better way. And those of you that sell annuities know where I'm going. It's with a guaranteed lifetime income rider. So the lower the safe withdrawal rate goes, the more attractive our solutions become. Great question.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. And anyone that wants to go to that webinar, you can get in touch with Eric or just go to dmiuniversity.com and our sign up is there. It's going to be a fantastic webinar with some industry experts and actually some industry experts that have just released a book. And so certain members of that attend the webinar will be getting the book as well.
And I might add, gathered a couple $100 million of AUM using one of the topics that we'll be talking about in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be really.
If that's not a tease. I don't know what is.
Webinar.
So here's the link, you guys, dmiuniversity.com/webinars, and you can register here. The 50% less cost, 100% more impact. Landing page looks like this. Here's Michael Hayflick, Russ Geiser, and our very own Erick Lindewall.
Eric.
That's going to be a good one. Don't miss it. Hey, Maureen, did you want to share some of the materials?
Great segue, because I have a bunch of people asking me where they can get this chart that we're using. So let me share my screen and I'll show you what I'm going to be sending everyone here. That's not it. Let's see. I just did this earlier, didn't I?
You know what? While you're doing that, just one quick question for Eric. Eric, I would imagine you run into the needs of some sales role play with certain financial professionals around this topic. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're willing to help people that have that need?
Yeah, we do. I mean, and I'm certain that there are some attendees here on the webinar today that I work with currently, and they probably were laughing a little bit when I said the bank story, because I tell that story a lot. But when we talk about cases and opportunities, there's always a conversation about, here's how I would position this, right? And so it's phraseology is important, and it's not sales techniques, but rather putting concepts in a manner in which the client can get their arms around and understand. And again, I say this all the time: nobody solves a problem they don't know exists, right? Don't ever. And the other thing I say is, don't bring a solution until the client's acknowledged the problem.
Right.
Right. And so yes, we will role play on that.
I tried selling these concepts to my father, actually, and I wish you'd have been there for that conversation, Eric. Probably would have been helpful.
Well, folks, can everyone see, this is what DMI calls my back office. And this is what a DMI agent can see for their back office with, everything you need, from materials to submissions to getting paid faster. But we have some great client materials and resources. And I'm just going to pop over here to our sales kits and campaigns. And I want to show you this sales guide flyer. So this is for agents only. But in here, you're going to get this wonderful sales flyer. It's got this customizable PowerPoint deck. You can just click on this, download it, put your own brand in there, and then you can use this with your clients. This has been approved by our compliance agency. Obviously, if you're a BD, you want to run this through your own. And then if you have questions on how to use it, we have a nice 15-minute tutorial right here by our very own Erick Lindewall. So that's always nice, because he just basically hand walks you through this. Obviously, contact Eric with any questions on how this goes. And then we have a lovely sales idea flyer. It really goes into the science behind why. So we have Matt and Kate, nice little couple here, and they're stuck in a growth mindset. Talks about this case study we did with Matt and Kate and the psychology behind it. What are some discovery questions to use, and what is the approach? And this, we've gotten some great feedback, very helpful. It's really easy to understand the client with this and their mindset. And then lastly, if my things right here, this is what everyone that's attending, whether or not you're a DMI agent, we're all going to get this. It's never time to hibernate. This is a piece you can use with your clients. And in this piece, I'm just going to go down to the next page. We have why the sequence of return matters with portfolio A and B. And you can really use this to walk through with your clients the difference of what happens. And then again, portfolio A and B after retirement when we begin to take withdrawals. So you can demonstrate, again, this is with a 5%. However, as Eric demonstrated, you can talk through whether the percent changes, because the concept behind sequence of returns is going to stay the same. So this will be sent to you, a link in your follow-up email from me in about a week. I'll send you this recording and this nice piece right here to share with clients.
Well, and to get that and much, much more, everything that you see, or a little bit of what you saw in my back office, and there is a lot there. We have a lot of DIY campaigns around multiple topics. You want to be licensed with DMI to get access to all that stuff, but we do try to deliver to those that are not necessarily working with us yet, but we're here to help as much as we possibly can. So, Maureen, thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate it. And Eric, I don't know if you have any final thoughts. I think shared a lot today. It was
Yeah.
really
So
fantastic.
thanks, Glenn. Yeah. I mean, the final thought is this, folks. If we're working with you currently, either on the life insurance or annuity or both side, thank you. Thank you for a tremendous 2024, and we look forward to an even better 2025. For those of you that are not currently partnering with DMI, give us a shot. Let me tell you, our sales team, how are we different? Glenn touched on a lot of the resources from a marketing standpoint that his team can bring to the table. On the sales side, I will tell you that all of our sales team are extremely tenured and experienced folks. Everybody with over 20 years experience at senior sales level positions in either the annuity or life insurance space. We want to partner with you. We don't want to push product. We are conceptual. We're going to give you ideas, actionable concepts, and techniques that you can use, not just to sell more product or create revenue, but truly make a difference in your clients' lives. And that's what we're passionate about. And we want to work with people that are equally passionate about really changing lives. So if we don't work with you currently, scan my QR code. Let's have a conversation. We'll have a brutal, honest, direct conversation about whether there might be an opportunity to partner. And if the answer is yes, awesome. And if the answer is no, that's okay too. But we would love an opportunity to at least have a chance to earn partnership with you. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Glenn.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Eric. And thanks to everybody that attended today. We really appreciate the engagement and look forward to more events like this, and then hopefully working with you in the future. But our next event, don't forget, January 29th, is that 50% less cost, 100% more impact. And we will raffle off 20 of those books that Maureen was talking about. So, and again, Eric will be co-hosting. So that's another big reason to go. So thanks so much, everybody, and have a very nice, warm day, hopefully.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.